This is wrestling's greatest moments.
Hey now, wrestling fans, it's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. It's difficult to pull a fast one on today's wrestling fans thanks to the dirt sheets and the internet. However, promoters once had the luxury of announcing title changes despite the matches never happening. Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at some of wrestling's notorious phantom title changes. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Patterson Intercontinental Championship Title Tournament. Perhaps the best-known phantom title switch is Pat Patterson winning the Intercontinental Championship in a tournament in Rio de Janeiro. Patterson, who had captured the North American Championship from a young Ted DiBiase, leveled up by becoming the champion of both North and South America, and presumably Central America as well. However, just as our parents always warned us that telling a lie always leads to telling a bigger lie to cover it up, such was the case with this invisible switch. Through the years, there were two tales of how Pat won the Intercontinental belt. The first was that Patterson had won the title in a tournament, while the other tall tale is that he unified the North American Championship by defeating the South American champion. Where things really get wonky is that the WWF's record books state the title was won in the fictitious tournament on September 1st. However, according to the site The History of the WWE, Patterson's manager had announced the win several days before on an August 25th episode of Championship Wrestling. Wrestling fans don't expect honesty, especially from heels, but you'd think they'd at least get their stories straight. The Glamour Girls WWF Women's Tag Team Championship. If you've noticed the pattern of phantom title switches taking place in distant lands, you probably won't be shocked by our next dubious title switcheroo. This one involves the WWF Women's Tag Team Championship, a title that was introduced into the company in 1983 after Vince McMahon acquired the rights to the NWA women's titles owned by the Fabulous Moolah. The WWF's Women's Championship enjoyed a surge of popularity during the early days of the rock and wrestling era. Many wrestling historians credit the storyline of pop star Cyndi Lauper guiding Wendy Richter to defeating WWF Women's Champion, the Fabulous Moolah, as a pivotal part of the WWF's national expansion. And while this may be true, the tag team titles were an afterthought at best at the time within the company. As such, the WWF didn't put much thought into booking them, as seen by the following phantom change. In 1986, Leilani Kai and Velvet McIntyre, aka the Glamour Girls, were introduced as the new tag team champions, reportedly having captured them at a live event in Egypt. A WWE.com article on phantom title switches shows just how phony this switch was. The platinum blonde duo known as the Glamour Girls supposedly defeated McIntyre and Desiree Peterson for the titles at a live event in Egypt in 1985. A cursory search through the WWE archives yields nothing to support that claim. If it is true, why did the women's tag team titles disappear from WWE for nearly 2 years? The title change became a moot point as the titles faded into obscurity once again until the Japanese team, the Jumping Bomb Angels, won the belts at the first ever Royal Rumble. World-class American Tag Team Championship, Roddy Piper and Bulldog Brower. Did you know that Roddy Piper wrestled in World Class Championship Wrestling in 1983? While it wasn't uncommon for wrestlers to make special appearances in other promotions, or in Piper's case, to work in both Jim Crockett Promotions and Georgia Championship Wrestling, the Rowdy Scott's name was used along with veteran grappler Bulldog Dick Brower to help pull off an invisible title switch. In this instance, it was the World Class's NWA American Tag Team Championship. In 1983, Bruiser Brody and Kerry Von Erich held the titles. However, Brody, who never seemed to stay in one promotion for long, left World Class, forcing the promotion to find a new champion. For whatever reason, promoter Fritz Von Erich decided to hold a fictitious tournament in Detroit, Michigan, and claimed Roddy Piper and Bulldog Brower had captured them. Fritz doubled down, claiming the new champions had dropped their titles to the team of the Super Destroyers, aka real-life brothers Scott and Bill Irwin. As we'll see later, this wouldn't be the first time Fritz did some fibbing. Then again, would you expect anything less from a promoter who faked a heart attack on TV to try and salvage a sagging business? Buddy Landell, NWA National Title. Buddy Landell is the type of wrestler who seemed to have the world at his feet. Unfortunately, he also had a bad habit of shooting himself in those feet due to bad decisions as well as personal demons. Landell, who had developed into one of wrestling's rising stars, possessed charisma, ring skill, and the gift of gab. At one point, it appeared that he was being positioned for an impressive role in Jim Crockett Promotions. Landell went by the nickname The Nature Boy, with James J. Dillon guiding his career. Landell had worked a series of matches with then NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nature Boy Ric Flair, appropriately dubbed the Battle of the Nature Boys. Wrestling legend has it that Crockett was preparing Landell to defeat Flair for the title, but that Landell's personal demons led to his dismissal before this came to fruition. Ric Flair stated on his Diamonds Are Forever shoot DVD that he was unaware of any plans for Landell to capture the NWA title, however. By the end of 1985, Landell turned his attention to NWA National Heavyweight Champion Terry Taylor, chasing the future Red Rooster for the belt. Landell struck gold at 1985 Starrcade with an assist from J.J. Dillon, but the reign wouldn't last for long as Landell was fired fired after allegedly no-showing a TV taping. Jim Crockett Promotions solved its title problem with the Phantom Switch, where the American Dream Dusty Rhodes supposedly won the title. According to the website The History of the WWE, it was announced on January 4, 1986 that Dusty Rhodes defeated Landell in Albuquerque, New Mexico to win the title. Sergeant Slaughter, Don Kernodle, NWA World Tag Team Championship. By 1982, the NWA World Tag Team Championship was a hot mess. Jim Crockett Promotions' version of the World Tag Straps, one of two remaining versions of the World Tag Team Championships recognized by the NWA, almost seemed cursed. On January 23, 1982, the titles were vacated by Gene and Ole Anderson after Gene suffered an injury. This led to a tournament where various wrestlers competed from various NWA territories to determine new champions. On paper, it was a solid idea as it boosted the title's prestige and would make the ultimate winners look like $1 million after overcoming various opponents. The finals came down to the teams of Ole Anderson, Stan Hansen, and Don Morocco Wahoo McDaniel. However, as documented at the Mid-Atlantic Gateway's 12-part series on the tournament, Ole Anderson got into an argument with Jim Crockett Promotions and took the belts to Georgia Championship Wrestling, effectively ending the tourney. Georgia announcer Gordon Soley announced that Anderson and Hansen had won the belts by default due to Morocco and McDaniel splitting up, a storyline that was taking place at Jim Crockett Promotions. Ole and Stan defended the belts on multiple occasions in Georgia, but Ole eventually returned the belts to Crockett. Rather than running another tournament, it was announced on TV on September 29, 1982, that Sergeant Slaughter and his protege, Private Don Kernodle, captured the National Wrestling Alliance's World Tag Team Championship in a tournament in Japan. The story that was told seemed far-fetched, as they had reportedly defeated Japanese legends Giant Baba and Antonio Inoki in Tokyo. As some snarky fans have noted, the fact that the good folks at Jim Crockett Promotions claimed Slaughter and Kernodle bested two of Japan's greatest stars is nothing short of incredible, particularly since Don Kernodle had been enhancement talent until recently. Jim Crockett Promotions had concocted a storyline where Sergeant Slaughter took preliminary wrestlers under his wing, whipping them into fighting shape. Nonetheless, Slaughter and Kernodle proved a talented team, and Kernodle ran with his opportunity, becoming a top-tier tag team wrestler in Jim Crockett Promotions for the next 2 years. The heel team would also engage in one of the area's hottest feuds as babyfaces Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood chased them for the tag team titles in a storyline that culminated in a historic steel cage match dubbed The Final Conflict. Rick Rude, Manny Fernandez, NWA World Tag Titles. Rick Rude's entry into the WWF provided some fantastic feuds as the WWF capitalized on the easy-to-disdain Rude by pitting him against some of the promotion's top babyfaces. The only problem was that he was still one half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions in Jim Crockett Promotions, the other half being the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez. While this wasn't a problem for the WWF, which seemed to prefer that newly acquired talent leave their old bosses high and dry by leaving them with no notice, it provided a challenge for Jim Crockett Promotions. Fortunately, Jim Crockett Promotions had a solution to their problems sitting in their archives. Previous tag team champions, the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, had battled the current champions many times. While they hadn't defeated them yet for the titles, they had defeated the champs in a non-title match. Jim Crockett Promotions took the footage from the non-title match, and through the magic of kayfabe, they billed it as a title match when they aired it for the fans. The Rock and Roll Express were once again tag team champions, and Rick Rude was written off with an injury. Ironically, something similar would happen roughly a decade later when Rick Rude showed up in two promotions at the same time. In the latter case, he appeared during a taped episode of the WWF's Raw and appeared on a live episode of WCW's Nitro. Chris Adams, World Class Championship Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. In 1986, Fritz von Erich decided to withdraw from the National Wrestling Alliance and turn World Class Championship Wrestling into a national promotion. Rick Rude, who held the promotion's top belt, was declared the promotion's world champion on February 21, 1986, subsequently losing it to gentleman Chris Adams on July 4th of the same year. However, in September of 1986, Adams was gone and Black Bart was introduced as a new World Class Champion, with announcers informing fans that Bart had captured the belt in a match on the West Coast. At least they didn't say it was in Rio or Egypt. Unfortunately for World Class, the promotion had to take the belt off Adams after Chris allegedly behaved in a less than gentlemanly manner aboard a commercial flight. Adams was shown the door from World Class, and Fritz von Erich put the belt on Black Bart, who kept it warm for less than a month before dropping the title to Kevin von Erich at the promotion's third annual Cotton Bowl extravaganza. What are your favorite Phantom title changes? Did we miss any of your favorites? Share your thoughts in the comments section and let us know if there are any videos you'd like wrestling's greatest moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and spread the good news about wrestling's greatest moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.